But anyways, thank you for those who are here though. But if you guys missed the last live, I pretty much introduced my new spiritual community, Motivated Manifestations, and I invited those who felt guided to join. And let me say this, only join the community if you're guided to do so, okay? We don't need just random people infiltrating the community or anything like that. If you resonate with my energy, if you resonate with my spirit, my mission, my message, the doors are open for you to join, okay? Thank you for those who have already joined. We're growing, so I definitely appreciate that. But I also spoke a little bit about how before my dark night of the soul, I wasted a lot of money on communities, right? Purchasing courses that at that time, it wasn't aligned with my spiritual path, with my divine path, because nothing really stuck. Nothing really popped for me at that time. Versus if I would have had a spiritual community in my scope, I'm sure I would have invested in myself that way first, and it would have aligned, it would have positioned me on my spiritual path to where, you know, I would have saved a lot of money for sure, a lot of time, just a lot of headache. But today I kind of want to put y'all in my business just a little bit and talk to you all about how my spiritual awakening came about and the events that kind of catapulted me onto my spiritual journey. Also about the pact that I made with Spirit before everything kind of took off for me. And then I want to share a little bit, I want to share some insight into Motivated Manifestations, how that came about, and just a little bit more insight into the community. So y'all just vibe out with me for a little bit. Thank you. But if this is your first time coming across this space, my name is Jess. Hi. Also known as the one who knows. Okay. I am a spiritual speaker. I'm a healer. Excuse me. I say healer. I didn't mean to say healer, but I'm a healer. She is. I'm an oracle. I'm a spiritual speaker and guide. Okay. I'm a mystic. Also a community leader. Okay. So welcome in. Y'all vibe out with me for a minute. Thank you. Thank you, Pop. My son on the live supporting me. But just to give you all some background herstory, okay? I was raised in the church, okay? I was raised Christian. Typical black family. We went to church every Sunday, you know, went to Bible study, Sunday school, things of that nature. But as I got older and I started to read the text for myself, I noticed that there was a lot of loopholes in the text. You know, there was a lot of things that really didn't make sense and that I didn't understand. And I had nobody around me to really clarify for me, you know, to answer the questions that I had. So I kind of pushed the Bible to the side. I did. And, you know, I was just in church. It was the way. I was young. So, you know, I went with it. And the only thing that really kept me intrigued about church was the choir. I loved to sing. I was in the choir. That was really the only thing that I looked forward to when it came to church. Even in my young adulthood as a young woman in my early 20s, I remember only going to church sometimes just to hear the choir sing. Literally. I would go to church, listen to the choir, and I would leave. Because that was the only thing that really invoked like the Holy Spirit in me. Okay, some people, they got the word and that's what really got them going. No, the choir is what really moved me. But I always felt that I was spiritual in a sense, ever since a little girl, because I connected more so with nature. I always had this inner knowing that I followed that always led me to the truth. Every day I would be outside barefoot, just running around, communing with nature, the trees, with the animals and the insects and the bugs and things like that. And with any typical child, I stayed in my imagination. I stayed just creating these realities, these elaborate realities for myself, because I felt like I had a higher calling over my life. I felt like I was here to do something. I felt like I was going to be somebody of importance. So I always held myself to this certain standard. I always put myself on a certain pedestal. And I always had a certain confidence about myself that nobody could really knock down. I didn't know my purpose until later in life, but I knew what I was good at. I knew that I was good at asserting my voice. I knew I was good at speaking. I've always had an affinity for people. People would always come to me and just seek advice, even strangers, seek advice, lay their burdens down. And I really took pride in that. And I still take pride in that until this day. So little did I know, I have been exercising my gift of just having that clear knowing since a child. Clear cognizance. That's what clear cognizance means, is a clear knowing. Hence the name, the one who knows. Okay. But let's fast forward to 2020, because that's when the shift actually happened. That's when I felt the shift. Around that time, I wasn't Christian. I wasn't in the church or anything like that. I wasn't identifying as Christian. I wasn't religious. I wouldn't say I was spiritual, because I hadn't had my spiritual awakening yet. I just relied more so on my intuition, on that deep knowing that I had. I allowed that to lead me. I knew there was a higher source. There was a higher power that ordained all of this. I had a sense of the spiritual realm. I knew that there were ancestors and there was angels that were guiding me. But again, I hadn't quite had my spiritual awakening, right? But around this time, I was also in a long-term relationship with someone who I considered my childhood sweetheart. And that soon turned toxic. That soon turned abusive. And it's crazy because I never identified as being in an abusive relationship until after the fact. It took until I got on my healing journey before I looked back and was like, dang, I was in an abusive relationship. I was the victim. I am a battered woman. But it never verbally came out my mouth. I never acknowledged it. I never identified with being in an abusive relationship, even though I told that individual often that, he was abusive. I don't know why. I guess one of the reasons why I didn't identify as being in an abusive relationship was because I fought back. Listen, my parents didn't raise no hoe. Okay? I protected myself. I defended myself. Okay? But of course, there was a lot of times where I let them have it. I didn't defend myself, because at the end of the day, I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. I don't want to fight. On top of that, this is a 200-pound plus man who can really knock my ass out at any moment. I really had to be smart about it. I really had to think smart and be strategic at times. And let me say this. Let me be clear, okay? Because it's not my intention to slander or demonize anyone's character at all. This is my truth. This is my testimony, okay? And I knew it was going to come a point where I was going to speak my truth. I've stayed silent for a very long time. I really haven't spoke publicly about this to anybody other than a few close people to me. But even at that time, when there were so many rumors and lies being spread about me and the situation, I didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing at all, because like I said, I knew that I was going to speak my truth one day, and it was going to be on a big scale. This is nothing. This is just Instagram Live. This is only the beginning, to be honest. So I just want to say that. But of course, after each, altercation, it always came the love bombing, the intense love bombing, the suicidal threats, and things of that nature, the remorsefulness and things of that nature. And I thought I could save this individual. That's why I stayed in it longer than what I should have. I thought I could save this individual, but he was battling some demons that were no match for me at that time. And it went way before me. So, it was nothing I could really do. So again, I stayed longer than what I should have. And listen, most times it's the people closest to you. Okay? It's the people closest to you that see your light, that see your potential. So much so that they don't want to pull that greatness out of you in fear of you doing better than them. And that's what it was. Okay? His demons seen me. They seen my gifts and they wanted to covet those gifts. He didn't want anyone to experience me. He didn't want anyone to see me. He didn't want anyone to know about me. He wanted to keep me all to himself. It got so bad. It got so bad that I would start thinking of scenarios of me pleading my case of self-defense in the interrogation room in case I had to off this person. I would think about that on a regular, because at that point it was life or death. It was life or death. He was telling me that he wanted to kill me, or that he was going to kill me. In my mind, it's like, okay, if I don't get to you first, that's just how I was thinking at that time. But I remember one time, we were all in the house. I was cooking dinner. And I just wanted to say this just to see what he was going to say. And this was the day that it really just hit me, like, you have to get out of this situation. I was cooking and I was like, I'm leaving here soon. I'm moving. I don't know what you're going to do. And he said with the most serious face and the most calmest tone, he was like, you moving, I'm moving wherever you moving. I'm going wherever you going. You're not going nowhere. You never leaving me. And I remember I had this chilling feeling that came over my entire body, and my eyes just filled with tears, and I just had to play it cool, So I left out the kitchen real calm. I went in my room, and I remember calling my dad. My dad is very spiritual as well. And but he doesn't pry. He doesn't pry into my business. I never really just gave people the ins and outs of what I was going through, but there were people close to me who kind of knew what I was dealing with. But I had told him, that instance, and he was like, baby girl, I knew. Like, I already know. I just didn't know how bad it was. And he calls me Pumpkin. He was like, Pumpkin, listen. I remember him saying, he was like, Pumpkin, don't put me in a position to where I gotta go to prison. He was like, do not put me in the position to where I have to go to prison, because if something happens to you, I'm going to jail. And it was like, it was a wake-up call at that moment. Even though I had been through so much with this individual, at that moment, it was a wake-up call. And I was just like, I know, Daddy. I know. He was like, you have 2 kids to live for. Like, you have to get out of this situation. And I was just like, I know. I'm gonna figure some things out. And around this time, like, my dreams had became more vivid. It was like my ancestors and my guides, they were speaking to me like, you can stay and you can have this, or you can get out of this situation and you can have this. What are you going to do? Like, you have to figure it out. And I remember making the mistake a few times of telling him about a few of these dreams, thinking that it'll kind of like wake him up and thank you. Thinking that it'll kind of wake him up and, have him get his act together. But that did nothing but irritate his demons even more. Because it was like, then like they knew. It's like, okay, I know she has a bright future ahead of her. Like, I know she's going somewhere and she's trying to leave us. Then what we gonna do? Because I was his supply. But I eventually had to get out of that, and I did. There came a situation. It was the last time. He caught himself trying to start a whole new life with somebody else while still keeping me in his back pocket. And at this point, I was already mentally out. So it was just like, you know what? I'm done. And that was the last time for me And I stood on that, and I never looked back. But in the midst of all of that, I had this friend, this best friend like this. It was someone that I consider family, right? My family loved this individual and vice versa. This person's family loved me like this was my best friend. One day we had an outing. I got home and I received a text message. And it said something to the effect of, I don't fuck with you no more. I don't fuck with you like that. Or I can't fuck with you like that. Something like that. Don't quote me. And I just sat there. And again, this is in the midst of what I'm going through in my relationship. We're, at the wit's end. I'm at my wit's end. And I just sat there with that text message. And I kind of just was like, okay. I seen what was happening. It was that time. And that's when I made that pact with spirit. I was like, listen. I was like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to make whatever sacrifices I need to make. I'm willing to cut off anybody who needs to go. I am ready to surrender to the divine path over my life. Wherever you see fit for me is where I want to be. And I never text that individual back. I never heard from them since that day, honestly. Because if I am someone who, if you valued me enough as a person, as a friend, you could have had a conversation with me to tell me that I made you feel some type of way, why you're feeling the way you're feeling, but you didn't care enough. It was just like, okay, I'm done with you. So it was just like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. And the crazy thing is, I never mourned this person. I never shed a tear. I never cried. And it was kind of weird because it's like, well, was it ever even real? This is somebody that I spent years with as a friend, as family. And it's just like, was it ever even real? That motherfucker back there is not real. So it never really impacted me in the way that I thought it would have. I look back at our photos sometimes and, really not anymore. But, it just used to be like, oh, we had fun that night. Or, those were the times. Those were the days. But never anything negative. Never anything negative. But after all of that, after I kind of sat with those two things there, it was like a new world opened up for me. It was like my spiritual lenses had came on. My dreams had become more vivid. I started exploring my magic and what worked for me. And listen, it was such an emotional time around then. Like, the intentions behind my alchemy was so potent that I began to create miracles for myself. Like, I started to see the movement in my life. I had already made up in my mind that I wanted to move, so a part of me manifesting in that time, I was like, okay, I got to get out of here. I need to leave all of this behind. There's too many memories in these walls. I got to go. So I ended up manifesting a move mid-lease. They let me out of my lease mid-lease. I didn't have to pay any penalty fees, nothing. And, that was nothing but source and my magic, okay? Us co-creating together. But at this time, I moved away. I ended up moving away. And nobody really knew where I stayed or whatever. And I remember one day, some time had passed at this point. I want to say it was kind of like the end of 2022. End of 2022. I remember I was in my bed and I was journaling. I was just reflecting on how far I've come, everything that I've overcame in life. And I was like, dang. Like, my manifestation's been hitting, and I've only been asking for poquito, like for poquito. And when I'm in that mode, I speak. I verbally speak out whenever I'm thinking, I'm journaling, because that's just what I do. I speak. I feel like the vibrations from the throat chakra are the most potent. So, second to your intention. But I was like, dang, if I'm just asking for little. What if I manifested grande? And these are things that I'm saying. I'm like, what if I've manifested grande? And I heard spirit say, you can. you definitely can manifest big. It's going to take a little time. It's going to take some more patience, some perseverance, some faith. Okay, but you can manifest big. And I was like, okay. And then I heard, but you have to leave here. And that made my heart drop, because I'm like, what do you mean I have to leave here? Like, I'm a single mother. I'm in the rat race at this point. I'm barely, getting by. I'm barely taking care of my household, because it's just me and my 2 children. So that sat with me. That sat with me in that moment. And I was like, dang, these are some motivated manifestations. And then I stopped. I was like, motivated manifestations? And listen, I was already in this divine portal of communication with spirit. So I knew it was nothing but divine, the divine that sent that to me. I was like, motivated manifestations. That's a powerful term. Let me write that down. So I wrote that down. And the next day I registered it as a business. And I sat on that since 2022. I didn't know how it was going to look. I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was my spiritual baby. But while in that place, I called it the House of Healing. That's what I called my apartment then. It was the House of Healing, because every wall, every corner in that apartment felt me. Okay, I could have been in the kitchen, in the lunch room, in my kids' bathroom, in the closet. I could have been anywhere at any moment. I just broke down. Either I broke down, I'm rejoicing, I caught the Holy Ghost, and it's just a whole revival in the house, like that's just what it was. Not around my children, of course, but whenever I had that time to self and just to really purge, that was the time where I really just purged and I healed and I released it all. And I see why Spirit said it was time for me to leave there, because that house, that apartment, that time was an era in itself, It served its purpose. So some time went on, and here we are at the end of 2023. And I'm still pondering on, like, okay, Spirit said I need to leave, but how am I going to leave? I don't have savings. I don't have money. I'm barely getting by. So I'm like, okay, let me just message my leasing office. So I messaged them and I'm like, hey, I have a family emergency. I can't stay. Is there anything that I can do? Like, what can I do so that I don't break my lease or, get any penalties or anything like that? And, someone messaged me back, emailed me back, and they were like, yeah, you can leave. You just have to pay $7,000 so-and-so dollars on top of a $1,500 reletting fee. And I was like, Spirit, is this what you want me to do? You want me to break my lease and get more into debt? Like, is this what it is? And like an hour later, and about an hour later, I received another email. And this email came from the property manager. And she was like, hey, Miss Harris. She was like, yes, you can go ahead and leave. Just pay us next month's rent and you're free to go. And I'm like, okay. Okay. I see what you're doing, Spirit. It's time for me to move. I was scared, of course, because I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know, what I was doing, or, what I'm doing, what I'm manifesting. I knew what I was manifesting because I knew the life that I wanted to live. I know what I want out of life, but it was just scared that I was scared because it happened so suddenly. The door opened so quickly, and I had the choice to stay and finish my lease and stay in the rat race, or I had the choice to leave and to manifest grande. So, I ended up packing up and I left there, and I am still in the midst. I'm still in the process of that grande manifestation. Okay. And this is where Spirit told me to go ahead and start motivated manifestations. At this point, I had to trust in that inner knowing more than ever. Right? I had to trust in myself and just follow my knowing and be obedient to the divine, regardless of what anybody said, regardless of what anybody says. I know where I am is where I'm supposed to be right now. So my life, my entire life has been one big lesson to root me in my purpose and to position me to be right here, to be able to teach and be able to guide others, okay, based off of things that I've overcome in life. So every time I speak from experience, a little observation, mainly experience, okay? So again, now we're here with motivated manifestations. Listen. Thank you. Listen, motivated manifestations is truly more than just a community. It's a movement, okay? We are all constantly creating with our thoughts, whether we are aware of them or not. And motivated manifestations helps you become more aware of your creative power. Consciously aligning your mind, your energy, and intentions with what you truly desire, okay? It's about healing, reclaiming, awakening that divine within you so that every manifestation is rooted in purpose, right? And this is where your manifestations actually land. This is where they stop being accidental and start becoming intentional. Okay, so whether you're reclaiming your sensuality, whether you're rebuilding after a hardship, or just stepping fully into your divine voice, there is a safe, sacred space for you here to be seen and heard, okay? So again, I invite those who feel called to join. How to find the community, again, if you go to the link in my bio, which is on all of my platforms, excuse me. If you go to the link in my bio, you will come to my landing page. Excuse me, goodness. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you will see the WhatsApp icon. If you do not have WhatsApp downloaded, then you would of course have to download the app. Text join or text me anything. I will receive your message and I will allow you into the community. But anyways, that's my time, y'all. I just wanted to come on and talk to you a little bit, tell you a little bit more about me and my journey, okay? Thank you. But yeah, y'all know where to find the community. Other than that, thank you all for who have joined. And until next time, I will talk to y'all soon. Peace.